Have you ever just stopped and stared at one of those massive, super bright LED screens? The kind that just dominate a city square or a stadium, and thought, how in the world do they put that thing up? Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to break down that whole process, right from the very first bolt to the last pixel lighting up. I mean, think about it. They're literally everywhere now. From those giant billboards that make you stop and look, to the mind-blowing backdrops at concerts. These things are so much more than just big TVs. They're these powerful tools, right? And their whole impact is just the sheer size and brightness of it all. But yeah, putting up a screen that's like the size of a bus, it's not exactly a weekend DIY project you can just knock out. No way. It's a super complex process with a ton of moving parts. And if you make one wrong move, oh man, that can be a very, very expensive mistake. But hey, don't sweat it. That's what we're here for. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the whole thing and give you a super clear step-by-step roadmap. Sound good? Let's dive in. Okay, so first things first. Before a single tool comes out, before you even think about lifting a panel, there's this huge fundamental choice you have to make. And this decision, it pretty much shapes the entire project. The big question is, how are you actually going to build this thing on site? And it really boils down to two main paths you can go down. On one side, you've got what's called cabinet installation. The best way to think about this is like giant pre-built Lego bricks. Everything's already assembled inside a sturdy box. They're super stable, easier to handle on the day, but they'll cost you more up front. Then on the other side, you've got the module and frame method. This is more like a build-it-yourself kit. It's definitely more cost-effective, but it's a lot more work, needs more skilled hands on deck, and you run a bigger risk that the final screen won't be perfectly flat. All right, so you've picked your method. Now it's time to build the backbone, the skeleton of the whole operation, the steel structure. This thing is what holds it all together. And honestly, it's the unsung hero of every single great LED screen out there. And this quote right here, it just nails the whole philosophy. It's not just about making something strong enough to hold the weight. It's about building it smart. You're always trying to find that sweet spot, right? That perfect balance between being safe, being fast, and staying on budget. So when you're designing this structure, everything comes down to three main principles. First up, policy. This is non-negotiable. You have to follow all the official safety rules, period. Then there's reliability. The structure has to be absolutely rock solid and based on a plan that's proven to work. Safety is just everything. And finally, economy. This is where you look at a few different plans and figure out which one gets the job done the fastest for the least amount of money. Okay, so the planning's done, we know our principles for the structure, now we get to the good part, the main event, the actual physical installation. And this whole process really breaks down into 5 key stages. It always kicks off with a site survey. You're out there measuring everything, planning where all the power and data cables are going to run. Next up is building that steel structure we talked about, getting the frame built and securely mounted. Then comes step 3, and this is the big one. Actually installing the display cabinets onto that frame. You got to get the alignment just perfect. After that, it's all about the wiring, connecting everything up. And finally, the moment of truth, system testing. You power it on, check the brightness, the color, and make sure everything looks absolutely flawless. So the screen is up, it's on, it looks amazing, high fives all around, right? Well, not so fast. If this thing is living outdoors, your job is far from over. Now you've got to protect this huge investment from its biggest enemies, Mother Nature. And what are those enemies? You might think wind, maybe birds. And yeah, those can be a pain. But the two things that can truly wreck an outdoor display? It's heat and water. Let's talk about heat first. A giant screen like this, pumping out all that bright light, it generates a ton of heat. And if that heat gets trapped inside, it can literally cook the electronics from the inside out. We're talking faded colors, dimming brightness, and eventually a total system failure. And heat's partner in crime, of course, is water. Rain, snow, even just heavy humidity. Any little bit of moisture that sneaks inside that casing is just terrible news. It leads to short circuits that will fry the components, and just like that, your beautiful, expensive screen is, well, it's dead. So how do you fight back against all that? You need a whole toolkit of environmental protections. You need proper lightning protection, with everything grounded securely. You need serious waterproofing, sealing up every single possible entry point, and even adding a little drain hole. For the temperature, you'll need fans for airflow. And you'll want to use industrial-grade chips that can handle crazy temperatures, both hot and cold. And one more thing that's super important. You have to leave enough space around it for maintenance. A technician has to be able to actually get back there to fix things if something goes wrong. Now, all of this sounds absolutely critical, right? But it also sounds kind of expensive. So let's get down to it. Let's talk about the bottom line and break down the total cost of one of these projects. Okay, so no surprise here, the biggest slice of the pie is the screen itself, the modules, the cabinets, all that. But here's what might surprise you. Look at those other pieces, the steel structure and the labor to install it. That's a huge cost, and it's one people often underestimate. Then you've got your control system, shipping costs, and this little slice right here called auxiliary equipment. So what the heck is in auxiliary equipment? Well, it's all the other important gear you might need. We're talking power distribution boxes, the computers that actually play the content, maybe a sound system. For hot climates, you might even need air conditioners, plus lightning protectors, video processors. Now, not every single project needs all of this stuff, but you absolutely have to factor it into your budget from the start. All right, so the screen's in, it's protected from the weather, and all the bills are paid. You're done, right? Well, what happens a year from now when something inevitably goes a little bit wrong? We got to talk about the long game, maintenance and troubleshooting. You know, one of the most common problems you'll see over time is the screen starting to look a little uneven, not perfectly flat, and this can happen for a few reasons. Maybe a module got a little bent during shipping, or some of the cabinet locks have loosened up over time. It could even be a tiny imperfection in the original steel frame. The good news is the fix is usually pretty straightforward. It's all about finding the problem and then adjusting, tightening, or reinforcing it. And check this out, here's a fantastic little pro tip for making those tiny adjustments. If your screen uses magnetic modules, you can get in there with a simple tool, like a hemostat, those little medical clamps, and gently grip the magnet to make super fine-tuned alignment changes. It's a brilliant little trick to get that perfectly seamless finish. And there you have it. That's the A to Z roadmap for installing a massive LED screen. We've talked about the different methods, the all-important structure, how to battle the elements, and what it all costs. So now you know how it's done. The only question left is, what are you going to create with it?